I just kind of fell into it, you know. I had 3 months before I was meant to start uni. I'd just done a gap year. I was like, what do I do? I ended up getting an internship, getting some experience in a sales company, and the rest is history. It was meant to be 3 months, and it's landed. It's been 10 years. And at school, I kind of realized that I just need to put my focus towards things that I know that are going to actually move me forward in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Things that I'm really passionate about, things that I'm excited about. And I got fired from every job that I've ever had. But when I started in sales, I did really well in the beginning. The reason why is because I was never afraid to speak to random strangers.
Yeah.
And I was good at making a great first impression. And once I understood the mentality of what gets a customer to make a decision and how to close at the highest level of interest,
Yeah.
once that skill was unlocked, it carried me through, and I ended up being a top performer within the first even 6 weeks of me starting in sales. So the reason why salespeople get paid so much is because they're doing a job that nobody wants to do. In online sales, in order for you not to get objections, you just have to educate the customer prior to the sale. So you're comparing your life to me because I've posted some stuff on social media of like the highlights of my time in Bali.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen me like on my laptop until like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Welcome back to the Sales of Callum podcast. It's episode 4. And by the end of this podcast, you're going to discover how Roel went from door knocking on a commission only sales role to scaling multiple offices across the UK, even expanded into Australia, which has generated over 500 million in sales. This podcast is going to be an absolute belter, and I'm excited to dive straight into this. How we doing, lads?
Yeah, really good, mate.
Amazing to be here. This is obviously round 2 now for us, obviously.
Round 2, but this is the only one that's coming out.
Yes. Ooh, who knows? The other one might come out in the future. But obviously, we've gone on a crazy journey since we met. Obviously, out here now in Bali, I think it'd be really cool to kind of dive into your sales journey, because you've been in the game now, what, for 10 years?
10 years, yeah. Coming up to 10 years in February.
10 years. And I've seen in terms of overall, I think in terms of your whole team, it's over like 900 million between the whole team you've done.
In US dollars, yeah. Yeah, it always sounds better, doesn't it? No, in Australian dollars, actually. Yeah. But in pounds, it's like 520 mil.
Wow, 520 million in 10 years between the collective of all your teams. But obviously, for some people listening to this, that might sound so far out of reach. So I think it'd be good to kind of rewind back to the start of your journey, really, to see how you've gone from starting out on the doors to now doing over 900 million as a collective in a team in revenue, which is just insane. So share a bit of like what got you into sales to start with.
Yeah, sure. So I just fell into sales, to be honest. I was always quite a creative guy growing up. Okay. I was a terrible employee, and I knew that from the ground. Okay. I remember whilst I was at school, I was always that kid that teachers used to say, oh, you have so much potential, you could do so much, but you just lack focus.
Yeah.
And I guess I've studied it a lot now, but I'm a little bit older. And I guess the reason why is just because I have like a very minor form of ADHD, whereas if something doesn't really entertain me, or if something doesn't, if I believe that something doesn't add value to me,
Yeah.
I don't focus on it.
Yeah.
Okay. But if it's something that's super valuable to me, and I know that it's going to head me towards a specific goal, then I'm ultra focused, and you can't even get my attention otherwise. And at school, I kind of realized that I just need to put my focus towards things that I know that are going to actually move me forward in some sort of way.
Yeah.
Things that I'm really passionate about, things that I'm excited about. So after school, I landed a couple of different jobs. I wanted customer facing jobs just because I liked hanging out with people. I've always been quite a sociable guy. So I worked as a waiter. I worked in hospitality. I worked in like retail, just because those are the jobs that were accessible to me at the time. And I got fired from every job that I've ever had.
No way.
Yeah, I've got fired from every cafe that I ever worked at. I got fired from every pub that I ever worked at. And I got fired from any retail job as well. And I knew from the age of 17 that I wasn't destined to be an employee.
Yeah.
So I started just making my own money. I was buying and selling things online.
Yeah.
I was buying and selling things. I was buying. I remember my mom's from Philippines. So I used to go back to Philippines, and I used to buy a load of snapbacks.
Yeah.
Because that was like an in thing back then. Like loads of that.
You still got a snapback on?
I know. But it was actually the first time I wore it backwards in years.
Yeah.
But yeah, loads of snapbacks. I was wearing, I buying like loads of like fake Supreme caps.
Yeah.
And I would come back to the UK and I would just sell them for like 25 quid each. And I'd buy them for like fucking 3 or 4 quid back in the Philippines. So, and I was always that kid at school that was just like buying sweets from Poundland and fucking sell it on a Sunday and then coming into school and selling them in the fucking playground. So yeah, I've always been into sales. However, I didn't know that there was, I didn't even know that door-to-door sales was a thing.
No,
Like,
I didn't until I met you, bro, in England.
no, I didn't know it was, I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know that in-person sales was a thing back in the UK. And I just kind of fell into it, you know. I had 3 months before I was meant to start uni. I'd just done a gap year. I was like, what do I do? I ended up getting an internship, getting some experience in a sales company, and the rest is history. It was meant to be 3 months, and it's landed. It's been 10 years.
Wow. And it's so cool as well. Like, in terms of your journey, I love hearing like a lot of entrepreneurs, they all seem to get fired from jobs.
Yeah,
It's like they're usually the ones at school that don't seem to do like that well at school. Like the teachers say they're not going to do that well, and then normal jobs just don't seem to like them.
yeah, sure.
It's almost like this like innate trait in like a future entrepreneur.
Yeah, sure.
It's
I mean,
fascinating.
there's loads of different examples of people entrepreneurs, and I know people that did really well at school.
Yeah.
Okay, and were great employees and have got into entrepreneurship and still done really well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? However, with regards to me, teachers didn't say that I wasn't going to do well. I remember I had this art teacher, who's my English teacher actually. His name was Mr. Rogers, and he said to me, and I don't know, maybe this is where my belief system came from, from an early age, but I think it was my last year of sixth form. And he was like, Roel, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why I think this way, but I just know for a fact that you're going to be really successful.
No way.
Okay. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what you're going to do, but there's going to be something that you do and you're going to become ultra successful.
And fast forward to now, have you seen him since that journey?
I mean, I've got him on Instagram actually, which is pretty great. Yeah,
You get out to
and I actually messaged. I was like, I don't know whether you remember that conversation, but that was probably one of the catalysts towards like my mentality as to why I think the way that I think.
Wow. Doesn't that just show as well, like how careful you've got to be with your language and the words you use when you speak to people, because you don't know
what impact is going to
the
make.
impact that's going to make long term.
Yeah.
You know, like you've got both sides of things, haven't you? You've got something negative that can cause trauma in someone's life, which causes them to go on a journey of creating nothing.
Yeah.
But then you've also got that ability to say something to someone which completely changes their whole direction of their life.
No, totally.
It's just mind blowing. But obviously, when you first started in sales, you kept getting fired from obviously your job.
Yeah.
And you got into the sales world.
Yeah, sure.
Talk me through, because I can vividly remember, and I'll share in a bit about when I first started in sales.
Yeah, sure.
But when I first started in sales, I was actually pretty shit.
Yeah.
And I know they say a lot of the time that you need to be, normally people that are good at sales are natural instantly.
Yeah, sure.
But tell me a bit about your first day on the doors. Like,
Okay, sure.
paint me a picture for everyone watching this.
Sure. So I didn't start on door-to-door first.
Oh, okay.
I started on pop-up events.
Okay.
So pop-up stands in like shopping centres, malls, high streets, etc., and so on and so forth. And I heard this recently, and it was I think it was like Cole. What's his name?
Cole Gordon.
Yeah, Cole Gordon.
Yeah.
He talks about it. He says that people think that in order to be a successful salesperson, you have to be like an ultra extrovert.
Yes.
Okay, like really confident from the get-go.
Yeah.
And they always say that people that are introverts won't become successful in sales, and the reason why is because they don't have that innate ability to make a good first impression.
Yeah.
But then there's also ambiverts, which are in the middle. So they're not like super extroverted,
Yeah.
but they're not super introverted. They're just in the middle.
Okay.
Okay. And they're the people they can still listen and engage. Extroverted people sometimes talk too much.
Yeah.
Okay.
That used to be me.
And introverted people, okay, don't talk enough.
Yes.
But they're great listeners. Okay. But an ambivert is somebody that can talk a lot and that can talk, but also listen. And they usually are the perfect salespeople.
Yeah, makes sense.
With regards to me, I guess when I first started, I was confident enough to speak to someone.
Yeah.
And I was confident enough to approach a stranger. Like that was probably my biggest skill when I was growing up. I was always that guy that would just for somehow end up being invited to loads of parties.
Yeah.
Okay, and I would always be really good at just building a network or meeting strangers and making a good first impression. However, the one thing that I lacked, okay, was my introduction was great,
Yeah.
but my short story presentation and close wasn't great. I wasn't great at getting people to make a decision. I wasn't great after the first impression. Okay, once the excitement fizzles away, where's the substance? There's no value. And maybe that was just my insecurities. Okay, but when I started in sales, I did really well in the beginning. The reason why is because I was never afraid to speak to random strangers.
Yeah.
And I was good at making a great first impression. But when I started in sales, in-person sales, that's when I started to work on my short story presentation and close.
Yeah.
That's when I started to learn actually how to control a conversation, how to add value into a conversation, how to listen to people properly, how to get people to make a decision. And those are all skills that I was very excited about. And those are all skills that I believe are very valuable in order for me to become successful in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So innately, okay, in the first week, I did really well just because I was great at approaching people. Okay, I was great at speaking to people. However, what held me back was the fact that I wasn't able to close that well and I wasn't able to add value. Okay, I was good at making first impression. And I remember my first 3-4 days, I absolutely killed it. But the reason why is because the people that were training me at the time were closing all the deals for me. I was just doing all the
appointments.
exactly. I was just doing all the appointments then.
Yeah.
I was just engaging with people. I was just making a great first impression. And I was teeing up to my team leader, and my team leader would close all for me. Okay. And we would have high conversion rate because I gave it to them really. I passed them the customer at the highest point of interest. And all they had to do is get the customer to make a decision.
Yeah.
But then it got to a point where my team leaders were like, Roel, we can't continue closing for you because you need to learn the skill of closing. And I was like, but I'm really good at the introduction though, but you guys are really good at closing. Why don't you just continue doing the closing and I'll do the intros?
Yeah.
And they're like, it doesn't work that way here. You need to learn how to close. You need to be self-sufficient. And I struggled with the closing part, okay, in the second week. But then once I unlocked that skill and once I understood the mentality of what gets a customer to make a decision and how to close at the highest level of interest.
Yeah.
Once that skill was unlocked, it carried me through and I ended up being a top performer within the first even 6 weeks of me starting in sales.
Wow. And what was for you? What was that moment? Like, what was, you mentioned, you said the word unlock. Like, how did you unlock it? Like, what did you do? What did you realize? So for someone that's starting out in sales, or they're in sales, but they're going on a bit of a roller coaster. Or some months they do good, some months they do well. So share a bit about what your insights were from that.
Okay. I guess the biggest problem that a lot of people have is they think that salespeople are just natural born salespeople. Okay. They think that leaders are just natural born leaders.
Yeah.
However, sales leadership there's a science and an art and a maths towards it. It's all systematic.
Yeah.
Okay. So all you have to do is watch someone who is a top performer in the game.
Yeah.
Watch another person, watch another person, watch another person. And what you'll start to dissect and understand is this all systems based. It's how they say a specific word, is their tonality they use. Okay. It's when they decide to close. Okay. It's when they get the customer to make a decision. Really understanding what the customer's needs are. Okay. Understanding what their fears are, understanding what's holding that person back, understanding why they've not made a decision already. And once you've understood all of those factors, okay, then you start to add your value and then you get the customer to make a decision and then you close.
Yeah.
And once I start to understand the step-by-step process with regards to the psychological factors as to why people make certain decisions, that's when I was able to start using and leveraging it. Okay. And I guess where a lot of people go wrong is they think that, oh yeah, sales is just getting a customer to buy into you.
Yeah.
And then they either buy into you or they don't. It's not that. It's not like that at all. That's maybe that's 8% of the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Like just because somebody likes you doesn't mean that you're going to buy from you.
Especially high ticket.
100%. They might like you, they might buy from you, but they might cancel after because you're not going to be around with them forever.
No.
So it's about really understanding the step-by-step structure. And once I understood that, once I started to observe people that were able to perform at a high level, that's when and study what they do.
Yeah.
And motivated them enough to teach me what they had. That's when I started to be able to perform at a high level.
Nice. And can you dive into the step-by-step structure that has worked for you and obviously for your whole team of generating over 900 million as a collective?
Sure. Okay. In-person sales is very simple. Okay. There's 4 systems that you learn in in-person sales. Number 1 is the numerical system, which is the law of averages, understanding your ratios, understanding how many people you need to speak to, how many people you need to close in order to generate a result.
Yeah.
That's the first system that's very important. And every single person has their own numerical system. Every single person has their own law of averages.
Yeah.
Not every single person is the same. Like, I've been in this game for like 10 years. If I go out onto the field doing door-to-door or in-person sales, my law of average, okay, is for every single person that I get them to make a decision, I'll probably have anywhere between a 60 to 75% close rate.
Yeah.
Whereas a brand new person, they'll have maybe like a 10% close rate.
Yeah.
But whatever they lack for in skill, they have to make up for in work ethic. And it's all about understanding how to break those percentages, right?
Yeah.
The next one is, I was taught this early on in-person sales, which is called the 5 steps to a conversation. Okay, there's an introduction, there's a short story, there's a presentation, there's a close, and consolidation.
Yeah.
Introduction is about, you've got 7 to 10 seconds to make a great first impression. Okay, the short story is explaining who you are, what you're doing, and why it's important to speak to you. Okay, the presentation is about creating a problem or digesting and understanding a problem and finding a solution. And then the close, okay, is once the solution is big enough, okay, the only reason why people buy is because there's a problem so big and there's a solution that's worth the cost.
Yeah.
And once the solution's worth the cost, you close.
Yeah.
And then the consolidation is just making sure that every single person that has encountered or spoken to you walks away from that conversation feeling better than you found them. Okay, understanding the next process and understanding why that investment was right for them. Okay, and in-person sales, realistically, you've only got anywhere between 2 minutes to 10 minutes with that person to get them to that decision.
Yeah, love that. I love that. And that, in terms of the steps, it's like you said, it's just simply following a system, and you get to a point when you get the reps in, you essentially do it on. It's almost like autopilot.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
And obviously, if you're someone starting out in door-to-door sales, because
Yeah.
obviously I know that's what your whole business is around. I've seen it time and time again with people in door-to-door sales, is that instant gratification.
Yeah.
And it's, what you mentioned earlier, like you could have a closing rate of like 60 to 70%, but then someone else may have a 10% close rate.
Yeah.
And then what happens there is people get demotivated,
Sure.
and then that loses that motivation. And then obviously people then end up leaving and giving up.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed with obviously building out, well, how many offices have you got located now around?
Offices in direct sales,
Yeah.
we've got about 7.
Yeah.
However, we've got 14 managers across the UK.
Wow. Wow. And what have you noticed to be like the main traits of the successful door knockers that end up turning into, say, leaders for your company?
Yeah, sure. It's all about understanding logic, okay?
Yeah.
And again, when you start off in door-to-door sales, the reason why it does breed a very successful mentality is because you learn about delayed gratification.
Yes.
Okay, like not every single day is going to go your way. Not every single customer is going to be a customer that you want to speak to. Okay, you learn grit, you learn determination, you learn how to deal with negative customers. You learn how to think fast on the spot. Okay, you learn how to problem solve fast. There's so many uncontrollables that can happen in a day. I remember, mate, after COVID, it was crazy, man. So obviously COVID-19 started in March in the UK. We came off lockdown in June. And at the time, we signed a broadband campaign, a broadband client. And they wanted us out pretty much straight away because they knew there was a very small amount of time where customers had realized that their internet was so shit. Okay, they had terrible internet. And the client that we had at the time was like, we need to solve this problem fast. And the only way that we can get into and speak to people face to face, okay, or speak to people is through face to face sales. Okay, so we were hired as a direct response. We were hired as a door to door campaign, and COVID, the first lockdown had just been lifted. Okay, and we had 100 sales guys out in the field in northwest of England, so in Liverpool, Manchester, and we were going out there knocking on doors across Liverpool. Okay, and pitching this this broadband client. And we were like, hey, look, full fiber has just been installed in your area. You've probably realized since COVID, how good's your internet? There's 6 of you now at home. Your kid's trying to game. You're trying to do the work. How many Zoom calls are frozen midway through a meeting, X, Y, and Z? And we were selling this broadband campaign. And I remember the problems that we had were we were getting the police calling us every day. They're like, there's people knocking on doors.
Of course, yeah.
It's COVID. What the fuck are they doing?
Yeah.
So we had to train our sales reps to be able to not just overtime customers, but like we had to teach our sales reps to call the police, okay, before getting into a territory. So before they started knocking on doors, okay, they were on the way to the territory, to the postcode,
Yeah.
and they would call the police saying, "Hey, by the way, we're here on behalf of this client. We've just installed fiber in this area. Obviously, everyone in this postcode, there was a lot of complaints about like terrible internet through COVID. So we're just solving this problem. What we've noticed, okay, in the last couple of weeks of pitching this product, is we've been getting people call the police because they were wondering why strangers are knocking on the door.
Yeah.
In case you get a call, okay, from one of these customers, just let them know that it's us, okay, and we're literally just advertising this product. So we had to close the police before getting there. So that's like a problem that we had to think about and solve straight away.
Wow.
Okay, and it was like, obviously everyone had face masks. Everyone had those, those face shields. So they were pitching customers,
Yeah.
outdoor, face to face.
Yeah.
Okay, in the middle of the rain, in the middle of, like, it was. I'll send you some photos actually of the times we were out there.
I have to clip it.
Yeah, you could clip it on, and it was like we had guys in like high visors, a face mask, like an actual like shield.
Wow.
Okay, and they were trying to get customers to buy into them.
That's basically some resilience.
Oh man, it was crazy.
It's impressive.
It's crazy, and these are just like the reason why people that have now the people that are now running offices for me, okay, the people that I've trained into a management position, those are all guys that were recruited through COVID.
They were doing it then.
They were doing it then. They had to go through that shit, man.
Go through that.
And the business is so much easier now. So they had to go through all of that tough shit to be able to get to where they are now.
It's like just going through. It's like the whole thing with like like cold showers and being uncomfortable in business decisions and being uncomfortable knocking doors. Like all this uncomfort is how you grow, right? And that's what's I think nowadays is everything's so easy to get now.
Yeah.
You go on your phone, instantly go on Instagram. There's instant gratification. You go on Amazon, you can get something delivered within a day.
Yeah.
You can order any food like that easily in the UK. Everything's just so easy now. And I think because everything's so easy now, everyone thinks that in business and sales, especially online, with, get rich quick schemes, everyone thinks that it's going to be get rich quick. And it's just not the case.
Sure.
It's not easy. And I think that's the best thing because I kind of experienced the same, not door knocking, but out in Magaluf in Mallorca. Was that face-to-face, doing door knocking at hotels, meeting new people, meeting new people on the streets, and you get rejection after rejection after rejection. How important do you feel like it is when it comes to sales? If you want to get to become an A player in sales, how important do you think it is to be able to handle rejection and overcome that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the whole point. Like, the reason why salespeople get paid so much is because they're doing a job that nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
Okay, not every single person in the world can deal with rejection. There's like 3 biggest human fears, right? Number 1 is like dying. Number 2 is failure, and number 3 is rejection.
Yes, yeah.
And the reason why salespeople get paid so much now is because the economy and the market has realized that there are only a specific few people, okay, that can deal with it and actually perform at a high level.
Yeah.
That's the reason why salespeople get paid so much higher now than they used to.
So true.
It's just a demanded for skill. But if you want to get into sales and you can't deal with problems and you can't deal with rejection and you can't deal with stress and you can't deal with being put under pressure when your back's against the wall and you have to think fast, then don't get into sales. Like, I have so many people that have started my company in the past that blame the client, blame the market,
blame the government,
blame the training, blame the system, and it's just like, you're never going to become successful.
Nope.
Not just in sales, but in this industry, unless you fix that mentality. Because in sales, you learn to be accountable.
You have to take full responsibility.
You have to take full responsibility, because if you don't take full responsibility in your actions, then what happens is you can't make a change. The moment you take full responsibility and you hold yourself accountable and you blame yourself as to why you're not producing the results you want to produce, why you're not at the success rate that you're at, the moment you take accountability and the moment you blame yourself, that's when you get control. the highest level of maturity is accountability.
Yeah.
And the most successful people in the world and the people that have an abundance of success take control of their situations.
Yeah. No, bang on, bang on. And obviously in the sales world, everyone's obsessed with how to handle objections. So I kind of want to hear your insights of running these massive teams, being in sales for 10 years. Like, what's been your secret to being able to easily handle objection? Because that's a rejection. An objection, I guess, is a form of rejection.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of people can't handle it. A lot of people give in and they end up, I don't know if you've probably heard of Grant Cardone's books.
Yeah.
But most of the time, sales reps end up getting sold themselves.
Yeah.
So can you talk through exactly how you've been able to handle objections, and not only you, but also help your teams easily handle objections?
I guess the biggest difference between in-person sales and online sales is in-person sales, you don't have to handle objections. Okay. The moment you get an objection, you just walk away and you just find another customer because there's enough people for you to speak to. In online sales, it's in order for you not to get objections, you just have to educate the customer prior to the sale.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
100%.
So it's educate. So in online sales, okay, you have to have really about 4 steps. Okay, so 4 steps is educating them to like the hook, to getting them interested to even want to speak to you.
Yeah.
Okay, or listen to you. And then all of the content that you have prior to that is objection handling for you.
Yeah.
So the mentality as to why people don't buy, or the reason why people aren't successful, or the reason why they're not successful, just educate them in those factors.
Yeah.
So by the time you get them and to even speak to a setter, they're already at an interest level to want to buy.
Yeah.
The triage is to qualify whether they even have the money to be able to buy. And the close is to address all those fears, okay, and get them to understand why, okay, our product will solve all of their fears. And then you close.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas in in-person sales, they don't have the leisure of doing that. Okay. Like the marketing is going to be based on obviously our clients. All they have to do is just get that person to buy into them. If they don't buy into them, don't move on to the next customer.
Yeah.
If they bought into them, okay, and they understand who, what, why the product makes sense, okay, then it's just problem, solution, close. My mentality when I was doing in-person sales is if you're getting objections, you haven't done it right.
Yeah.
You haven't done your pitch right. However, it's the same philosophy when you're doing online sales. Okay, if you're getting objections at the end, it means that you haven't educated the customer enough prior to that point, or you haven't qualified that person enough prior to that point.
Yeah.
The customer should be asking you to buy instead of you selling to the customer.
I was going to say that exact same thing in terms of with myself. It's like when a lot of people get objections, they go into like instant sell mode. It's like convincing.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like, no, you need to get them to convince you.
Yeah.
You need to flip the script and get them to sell you, get them excited. You know, I've always just looked at it as an objection as just a bit of negative energy.
Also, no isn't a no. No is your next opportunity to figure out what their problem is. Okay. And it's so many people do, like, I actually want a person to tell me no straight away so I can digest and understand what's holding them back and what their fears are.
Yeah.
Whereas the basic standard salesperson, okay, the rookie salesperson will just be trying to push yes throughout the whole conversation.
Yeah.
That's not the goal. The goal is to understand why that person would say no.
Yes.
Okay. And then start educating them on the reasons as to why it's beneficial, and then closing.
Yeah.
Whereas the average rookie salesperson that probably has a very low conversion rate, or signs up loads of people, or signs up loads of yeses, but then after they've walked away from that person, loads of people can have a high cancellation rate. The reason why is because they haven't actually addressed the problem.
It's like ignored it.
They've just masked it.
Yeah.
And what happens is they're just using like charisma and like they're just using like dodgy sales tactics to get that person to say yes the whole time.
Yeah.
The goal isn't to get that person to say yes the whole time. The goal is to really digest and understand the problems,
confront it.
What's going to hold that person back, educate them, and then close.
Love that. Powerful. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about, like, obviously in regard to sales, most people that get into sales, like, they start out with sales and then they want to move up to leadership. And a lot of entrepreneurs out there are people that started out in sales.
Yeah, sure.
After interviewing a lot of people on my podcast, it became apparent that the majority of the ones that I interviewed, actually, whatever business they're doing now, a lot of them actually started out in sales.
Yeah.
Whether it's cold calling, door knocking,
Recruitment. Yeah.
all similar type of background. Obviously, you've gone on to leadership, and I think leadership's a fascinating subject. And for a lot of people that are either in business or that they're in sales and they want to become a leader,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to learn how to be a leader. And I think the first step to leadership is learn how to sell. Because if you lead a team, you need to sell your team.
Yeah.
You need to get them on the vision, the mission. But I want to kind of talk to you about the fact that you've been able to lead and turn sales reps into leaders. I want you to talk a bit more about the psychology of leadership and what it takes to become a very good leader.
Sure. So leadership in sales is all example. Okay. It's hot. Yeah. Like I was saying, so leadership in sales is all example. Okay. People listen to you if there's there's 5 levels of leadership. Okay. Number 1 is title.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are 5 levels of leadership.
Yeah.
The first level is positional, where people follow you because they have to. It's like when you start in like Tesco's or Sainsbury's.
Yeah.
Like, who likes their fucking supervisor?
Nope.
No one.
Kept getting fired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I didn't even get to speak to them. They instantly didn't like me. However, people that are at positional level of leadership, okay, with their team, okay, will have the lowest form of influence. And what that means is the only reason why they're following you is because of the title that you have, because they're made to follow you.
And people get so obsessed with the title, don't
Exactly. It doesn't mean that you have high influence. It just means people just have to follow you. They'll give you the minimum amount of input because you have the lowest leverage form of influence.
Yeah.
The next level of leadership, okay, is relationship, where people follow you because they like you. However, just because they like you, okay, doesn't mean that they're going to operate at a high level. They might just stay around and stick around. It doesn't mean that you're going to be able to drive them to high performance. The next level of leadership, okay, is production, where people follow you because they like you, but because you're able to produce and show them the example. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the fourth level of leadership, okay, is development, where people follow you not just because they like you, not just because you can show them the example and show them results, but because of the person they become when they're around you.
Yes.
And the fifth level of leadership is the pinnacle point of leadership, where people follow you because not just because of the results or the person they become when they're around you, but because of who you are, what you stand for, and what you're going. And every single person that I've coached, every single person that I train, every single person that I know that I have to be a leader for, my goal is just to break those levels as quickly as possible. So I don't want you to follow me just because you have to. I want you to follow me because you like me. I want to show you the results. I want to show you how to produce the results that you want to produce. In addition to that, I want to explain the systems behind how I'm able to produce the results, so you're able to produce these results as well.
Yeah.
And then I want to get to that fifth level of leadership where people follow me because of where I'm going and like the narrative that I can build, the vision and the mission that I have. Whereas the problem with a lot of people is they explain the vision and the mission, okay, and they want to get to that fifth level straight away, but no one's going to believe you unless you're able to produce the results.
100%.
No one's going to believe you unless they know that when they spend time with you, they listen to you, or they listen to your podcast, or they listen to like your talks, that they actually get education.
Yeah.
Like I was listening to Alex Hormozy yesterday, and Alex Hormozy always talks about giving out your best information for free.
100%.
And you might be so scared to give it out, but the likelihood of everyone applying it is very slim anyway. So my mentality is like, if Alex Hormozy advised me to do something, okay, even though I've never spoken to him face to face or in real life, if he gave me one bit of advice, I know for a fact that I would follow his advice. He is at the pinnacle level of leadership for me.
Yeah.
And I haven't even spoken to it.
Powerful.
Okay, I don't need to follow him because of his position. I don't need to follow him because of his results. I can follow him because of what he's already done for me, just by posting YouTube videos.
Yeah.
And also of where he's going and what he stands by and his mission. Okay. And most people, too many leaders are quick to sell in the vision and the mission without understanding the first 4 stages.
Yeah. I love that. I've never heard them that in order, but it makes so much sense. And in regards to what you mentioned as well about giving it all for free, I've noticed a lot of people are scared to sometimes give it all for free, especially in the online world. But I think I live by a philosophy: just give, give, give.
Yeah.
Just keep giving, keep helping. Because if you just, I think for me, in terms of like for leadership and like what I want to build, is the more I can give and the more I can help, the more it's just going to build everything for me.
Sure.
And I love that you've got them different levels, and I really like that. I've learnt a lot from hearing them levels. It's like, yeah, that makes so much sense. And I guess one thing I noticed with seeing your organization is like you're always doing team stuff with them. You know, you're always taking them out for meals. You're always doing, you go on nights out with them. You go on holidays together. Like, I think that's going to create that culture, and kind of like what you said at the last stage is people are going to want to stick around with you because of the values you've got, the mission that you've got. And
Yeah, sure.
I love it. I love it. You absolutely just live by that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, in in-person sales, you have to appreciate it's not an easy role. Okay, it's not an easy job. So
it's not for the faint-hearted.
exactly, you have to. It's all about endorphins, right?
Yeah.
Okay, people have to feel the win. Okay, so no matter how big or small the win is, it's a win. And the reason why we do those dinners, the reason why we take people on holidays, the reason why we do a lot of team stuff,
Yeah.
is because we wanna make the winners feel like they're actually winners. Does that make sense?
Yeah, incentive.
People want to be remunerated, and people want to be um people want to be part of the group that are the top performers. Like even this weekend, okay, I'm getting back to the UK this weekend. Literally, the week that I'm back, I'm running 4 different masterminds. Okay, a mastermind for all of my sales managers, a mastermind for all of my top performing 1% of leaders in the organization.
Oh, cool.
And we're going to be celebrating like a big gala with all the top performing new people and the top performing
You always do the awards.
every single year.
Yeah, I love
Okay.
that.
And the reason why is because if you're a top performer, okay, and you've got a bit of game about you,
Yeah.
okay, and you've got some big balls, okay, you want to be part of that group, and you want to be driven to that point, and you want the accolades, okay. And that was one of the things that used to drive me on a day-to-day basis. Every single day we would have the top performers list. Like the top performer of the day was this person. The reason why is because of this, and I wanted to be that top performer every fucking day.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
if you're not that type of person, the likelihood of you doing well in sales is pretty slim.
Yeah, powerful. And I think one more thing I want to sort of touch on. We spoke about sales, we spoke about leadership, and I think the final one is mindset.
Sure.
I think every business and sales, like, you're capped by your own mind. Especially for you running a massive business, is you need to be that high performer in order for it to continue to grow. So
Sure.
when it comes to mindset, what's been like what's been your biggest challenge
Sure.
that you face growing the type of business that you've grown,
Sure.
and how did you overcome it?
Sure. So I never lacked belief in myself doing whatever it takes to do well.
Yeah.
Okay, let me reframe that actually. So I guess I guess my biggest, okay, the biggest thing that I'm grateful for, okay, is the fact that I had self-belief not in my current ability, okay, or not in my day-to-day abilities, but I had belief that I would do whatever it takes to make sure the job is done. Okay, so I might have doubted my abilities. I might have doubted I had enough, or I was confident enough, or I might have doubted that I had enough information, or I might have doubted that I didn't have the credibility or the position to get to where I wanted to be at.
Yeah.
However, the one thing that I've always had is I will never ever stop, okay, learning, and I will never stop working until the job's done.
Yeah.
Okay, I always had belief in that ability.
Yeah.
Okay, and because I had belief in that ability, whatever problems I encountered, whatever situation that I was in, whether it was positive or negative, whatever obstacle faced my way, I knew for a fact that I would do whatever it takes to make sure that I'd overcome it.
Yeah.
And because of that mentality, I've been able to overcome situations and struggles that in the last like 2 or 3 years, that 10 years ago I wouldn't have been able to fathom.
Handle.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to handle that. I wouldn't have even wanted to dream for those problems. Okay, I would never have even wanted to be in those situations. However, I've ended up being in those situations, and I've still been able to overcome those situations and problems just because of that mentality.
Yeah.
And I guess where have I developed that innate mentality from? From a young age, I was born and raised. I was born in London. Okay, I was born just outside of London, but I was raised in the Philippines. So I was there for 5 years. So my first language was Tagalog, Filipino.
Yeah.
So when I came to the UK, I can speak a lick of English.
Wow.
And I remember at 5 years old, I was placed in a classroom, and it was just like everyone was communicating and chatting to each other, and I couldn't speak a word of English.
Yeah.
But from a young age, I was completely out of my comfort zone, and I was able to overcome that. So that gave me a sense of belief. I was still able to make friends. I was still able to speak to people. I was still able to have fun. I was still able to build a life, right, and build a connection. And I guess maybe because of because I was exposed to that at such a young age, I may have developed that belief that I can overcome anything.
Well,
Okay,
yeah.
and yeah, and growing up, like I didn't grow up in an affluent family. Okay, we weren't struggling, but we weren't like super rich.
Yeah.
Like we were literally just in the middle. And I always saw my parents like working super hard. My mum was like the breadwinner for her family back in the Philippines. So my mum would have to work like two jobs. She'd be a cleaner in the day, and she'd be a nurse in the evening. Okay, my dad same thing. So he would be working like 12-hour, 14-hour days, just so we can provide help and support from our family back
Yeah.
in the Philippines. So I always saw my parents work super hard.
High work
Okay,
ethic.
100%, and they never celebrated. Okay, they never like did things for them. They always did it for their family,
Yeah.
and that was a massive influence on me. And from a young age, I always had that desire to provide for my family, to be the sole breadwinner for everyone.
Yeah.
And because of that drive, and because of all of the situations I'd had at a young age to push myself, when I started in sales, everything made sense to me. It was like you get paid for your effort. Okay, you get paid for the value that you bring to the marketplace. Okay, and the only question that I had was, how much value am I providing? Okay, and if I wasn't getting paid enough, the reason why is because I wasn't adding enough value.
Yeah.
And the person that had control of how valuable I can become is me. Okay, it's like how good of a student can I be? Okay, to learn the skills that I need to learn to become more valuable in the marketplace. And when I came into the sales, I just had this growth mindset where all I had to do was just get better at the specific things that I need to get better at today.
Powerful.
And because of that, I had an obsession with just personal development. Okay,
It's addicting.
I wanted to be known as the most positive person you encounter.
Yeah.
I wanted to be known as a person who had the emulated confidence. I wanted to be known as a person who was an expert in sales.
Yeah.
I wanted to be known as a person who was an expert in leadership in-person sales.
Yep.
I wanted to be known as a person that was highly influential. I wanted to be known as a person that was an incredible public speaker. I wanted to be known as those are sort of checkpoints that I wanted. I just wrote down a list of everything that I wanted, all of the skills I needed to have, okay, in order to become a high level performer in my industry. And I wrote it all down, and I just marked myself 1 out of 10 on all of those things.
Yeah.
Okay, and my only goal for the first 5 years was just to tick all of those boxes off.
I love that.
And then the moment that I was able to sign myself off between 8 to 10 and all of those skills, that's when the world started paying me and started to give me the results that I wanted.
Powerful, powerful. And if you were to go back in time, we all go on that journey, and it's always like, oh, I wish I started this sooner, or I wish I knew that then.
So,
If you were to go back and help your younger self when you were first starting out in sales, like that first day,
sure.
if you were to give younger Roel one piece of advice, what would that be? With everything you've
It would just be to document everything.
I knew you were going to say that.
Honestly, my biggest regret, I don't regret many things, because most of my failures and most of the things that have held me back, okay, and most of the problems that I faced, okay, like some of them have been self-inflicted, okay, and some of them have been out of my control, and I am super grateful to have gone through all of those challenges throughout my whole career.
Yeah.
Because that's what's built the story,
Yeah.
and that's what's built me to think the way that I think,
Yeah.
and act the way that I act, and be the person I am today. So I don't regret any of that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I do regret is not documenting everything.
Yeah.
The one thing that I do regret is not filming all of my struggles and all of, because you can look at my Instagram now, and some of my friends and I joke about this all the time, and it's like on my Instagram, it's like it's just the highlight of the life that I'm living.
Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of my friends, I was actually chatting to one of my friends from school, and she was like, "Oh, like I can't just like pick up and work remotely because she works in finance, so she has to work in the UK." Okay, and I was like, "Look, I was like, you're comparing your life to me because I've posted some stuff on social media of like the highlights of my time in Bali.
Yeah.
But you haven't seen me like on my laptop until like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, you haven't seen me have to like miss out on certain things, okay, because like my mates or dinners of my friends going out. You haven't seen me like miss those situations or those good times because of me having to be on a Zoom call with a person that I need to speak to, like an emergency back in the UK or in Australia." Yeah, and then he says like, "Oh, so many people look at like your highlight dream life because of social media and how it's advertised,
I know.
but they don't see the shit that you have to go through."
No.
And the reason why I do like documenting everything now is because my life is just not perfect.
No.
Like
Nobody's is. What
it's
even is perfect?
100%. Like there's certain challenges, there's certain obstacles that, and there's certain things that I do that the average person just wouldn't want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, and but that's again the bigger the losses. Okay,
Yeah.
the bigger the challenges also equate to the bigger wins.
Yeah. Powerful, powerful. Well, I'd say that was incredible. It was so good, like diving into your journey, and yeah, obviously in terms of the documentation, like I think that's just a big lesson for everyone, whether you're in business, whether you're in sales, is just document as much as you can, because it's easy to say things, but when you can, everything we say is what we believe and what we've gone through.
Yeah,
But when you can back it up with the content and the evidence,
that's
and
it, man. Like I wish I started filming my journey
a bit like in Mangad
from the start. Yeah, like
No.
look at that guy, man. Like
killed it.
he's absolutely killed it, and the reason why is because he's living at his whatever lifestyle he's living now, but he can also back it up with
What he went through.
what he was doing when he was like 14 years old.
I know.
Like if I'd started documenting back in like 2015 when I started in this industry, like the person that I was there in comparison to the person that I am now, you wouldn't even be able to believe that that was the same person.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm the same person in terms of like characteristics and like
Yeah.
I'm still the same dude, but the only thing that's different is just my skills and my mentality.
100%. 100%. Wow. That was an absolute pleasure. And what a view. What a spot to
Unreal, man.
Incredible. Incredible. But yeah, happy days, lads.
I think so. Thanks for having me.